Can I go?
Yep.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm like a major chatterbox. And for me, it is this incredible relief to find another way to communicate other than my words. And which isn't to say that every time I'm dancing, I'm trying to, you know, express something specific. But just that I am communicating either with myself or with others. And I think dance is really at its best for me when I'm able to show something that can't actually be explained. There's so many things that words cannot capture.
I focus myself a lot more within being a choreographer. That's where my passion is. But I also very much love to perform and show the world my ideas and other people's ideas through my body as well. It's a beautiful thing.
I just want to feel like I've connected with someone. And I really think that's the end game. Because when you do connect with someone, when someone comes up to you after a performance and says, you know, I really felt something, or I understood something because of the way you danced, or the way the person next to you danced, it doesn't even need to be like a personal accomplishment. It's just, I don't know, it means a lot. You know, that's why you do it.
I want to try anything and everything. I don't steer away from something just because I have reservations about it, or, you know, I'm scared. I love adventure and I have a zeal for life, and I think that that's important, being a dancer, because people go to the theater to see something amazing. And if you're not jumping outside of your comfort zone, that's not amazing. There really was a mental battle that I went through when deciding to pursue this path. Thank goodness I had family that supported me, but I also had other really close people to me in my life that questioned it, and, you know, and then I had to decide, am I justified in this decision? Is it selfish of me to want to do this, to do the thing that I love? You know, could I do it for a living, maybe? Or should I sacrifice that, you know, squelch that desire and that dream and put my time and effort into getting a job that would pay, you know, the rent, and you would give me health insurance and dental, and so that I could be, you know, comfortable, live comfortably, and not have my parents worry about me. You know, was I making ends meet? But in the end, I mean, it was, you know, I knew what I wanted to do, and it's my life, so I went for it.
So I don't come from a very typical modern dancer background. I actually started in ballroom dance when I was 14 and did ballroom dance up until I was 21, and I went to college. I never had a problem going and doing dance or creating or writing or helping someone else or performing. I loved it so much. And so I dedicated myself to it, even though it wasn't the easy road. It's not one that is said to make money. It's not one that's said to be able to help me raise a family, because I want a family. But I knew that because I had a passion, I would be successful. I wasn't scared of that anymore.
I've always been a dancer. From the time I was 5 years old, I went to the studio every week, and then every week became every other day, and every other day became every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. And, you know, I've kept that up ever since. So, you know, things that seem normal to me, you know, sometimes there's like culture shock almost. You know, other people would think it's weird to go home from a full day of school at, you know, your college, and then also run around and roll on the floor and crawl all over people. But, you know, that's just, I don't know. I've always been a creature of my own body. I've always been someone who lives through my bodily experiences, my touched and lived experiences. I don't know if I could do it any other way. I don't know if I know any other way.
I've always been really, really active as a person, as a child. When it was suggested that I dance, I found it so exhilarating that instead of trying to find a way to quit, I would find ways to cover up my injuries or push through however tired I was. And as I continued to study dance more formally and got to investigate, really like research, like movement research, investigate who I was and how I want to move, I started to become more honest, because your mouth can lie, but your body won't. And so there were certain things that I wanted to create, or things I didn't want to create but would come up anyways, that I then had to look at and face and think about more and synthesize through movement again. And doing that process over and over again, I started to get to know myself more. So dance has definitely become something that lets me be more me, and keeps me really honest.
Dance is kind of a subset of my career, I guess you could say. It provides my full-time job because I do work at a ballet school, but dance provides so much more than that.
I feel like the thing I value most of all is my body, because it's how I dance, it's how I do everything, it's how I get from one place to another. It's the vessel through which I understand the world I'm in.
Dancing satisfies my soul.
I don't have that many things, like physical things, that I care about that much. But my body is definitely important. That sounds
so cliche.
Narcissistic.
But it does.
I care a lot. It's sort of a problem. Like a real problem. I care way too much about dance. Which is terrible, because I'm trying to hold down like 3 other jobs so I can actually dance and not, fall over because I've only eaten like 3 ramen packets in the past week or so.
I know I need dance in order to be more myself, but I'm not sure I need people to watch me dance.
No, I think about it all day.
I do like showing people dance, but I'm not sure that their lives are necessarily becoming better because of it.
When I'm doing it, it's all I'm thinking about.
I'd like to think so, but I can't control their experience.
I am completely zoned in to what I'm doing and what my senses are telling me. And yeah.
One of the things that I draw from personally is my gymnastics background. And I like to pull that into my dance because I think it's a pretty cool thing, Not your average Joe can go upside down and hang out on their hands for a while.
I started actually in social work. I started my degree there.
It's very fun to take chances with that, knowing that I have that ability and can see what, dance moves I can create or can incorporate.
I had a very strong passion for it and for helping people. But in the end, I was dedicating 3/4 of my time to dance.
Other things that I draw on that make myself unique as a dancer are yoga, and I've taken flamenco and African.
Through my dance studies, I started doing yoga.
African dance gives you that sense of relating, rhythm and relating to the music and really feeling it, that dancing to recorded music, that say it doesn't have drums in it, you don't get the same results.
I can seek solace in the consistency of my yoga practice. And so over the year, I've been training to become a teacher because I've always felt that yoga has been such a gift to me. And now I feel so grateful that I'm able to offer that to other people as a yoga teacher.
So sometimes I think dancers are the craziest people in the world.
Dancers are the strangest.
They work for months and months and months, sometimes just to perform something once.
It definitely takes its toll because you have such a busy schedule, and a lot of times you have to rehearse late at night, and you're so tired you can barely think.
And there is a reason we do it.
I remember this one time I got injured. I rolled my ankle, and it's really the only time I've been extremely injured. Knock on stone. And I my ankle swole up to this huge thing. And anyway, the moral of the story is, it was the most stressful experience for me because every move I made, every single step I took, I was like, oh, am I going to re-injure it? Am I going to mess it up again? And my friends just couldn't understand why I didn't get over it. It's like, to their minds, it's just like, rest, sit down, stop doing all your crazy things, and just try and let it heal. And that was so foreign to me. I could not put it at the back of my mind. It was like someone had, taken my eyesight away or something. It was so integral. My entire body is so integral to how I move through the world, how I experience the world.
And that's why it's worth it to create, and create some more. Because it's the journey that creates us. But it's in the performance where we get to start helping others find themselves. And then if they have the chance, get to know who created it, who's performing in it. Because then you might find even more about yourself, because they can help take you on that journey that they have been on. That's why it's worth it. Yeah. Religiously and culturally, being a male artist isn't something that is looked well upon, because you can't raise a family very easily on that. So that was something that I had to come to terms with and believe in myself, and that God would help me as well to be a successful artist, so that I could raise a family, I would be able to support my family, and that I would be able to do the good that I knew that I had in me, to be able to help people and change people. And so I had a girlfriend at the time that her mom, I went to meet her mom, and we were sitting and having a dinner, and I brought up that I was going to do dance, that dance was what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. And she looked at me very quizzically, and she was a music teacher, crying out loud. But she looks at me and she's like, are you sure? Are you sure you're going to do that? And I was like, yes, I totally want to do that. And she started to try to talk me out of it, try to tell me that that's not good. And so all of a sudden I was like, so you're saying that you don't want me to date your daughter because I won't be able to support her because I'm going to be a dancer, a male dancer?
Really, the worst is when you're on the metro and you've just come home from a really long day, jumping all over the place, and you cannot stretch. Like, every part of you hurts, and every part of you wants to, like, just wiggle around, and everyone will look at you like you are a weirdo if you do that. Which is something I think everyone can really relate to at the end of the day. You know, after a really long day, all you want to do is lie down on the metro, and you really can't without everyone thinking you're weird.
You know, when you go to rehearsal at night after a full 8-hour day at work, and you're trying to give it your all, but you're just so tired, you know, and you're drinking coffee and you're trying to do what you can. It's hard, you know, you can make it work that way, but it's such a sacred thing when you're able to find a company and that rehearses during the day, and, you know, that's your job.
In the dance world, it's so difficult to really predict what's going to happen to you next. Especially, you know, you don't get jobs from going to auditions really anymore. You get jobs from, you know, going to shows and schmoozing with people afterwards, and, you know, going to class and finding the people who you want to dance with and then just stalking them, you know, like going to all their classes and all their shows and making sure to, like, let them see that you were there to enjoy them. So it's, which I kind of like, actually. I feel like, it makes it easier for everyone. You know, the choreographers really get to know the people they're going to work with beforehand, as opposed to just like some cattle call thing where it's like, she seems perfectly fine from the way she développes. So it's just kind of frustrating because you can't really plan too far ahead. You can't say to yourself, you know, in 5 years, I'm not going to have an injury, because injuries never happen unexpectedly, and I am still going to be dancing for this and this person, and I'm going to be in this company. Because you never know. Like, there are tons of dance companies being made every day in DC. There's tons of people just creating, you know, like little pieces of art that blossom into these huge, elaborate evenings, you know. I feel like you just have to be open to whatever passes by.
There's definitely a badge of pride, like self-pride, that I have for pursuing things because they matter to me, and not because it's what the world expects or because it will make my life easier, because neither yoga nor dance has made my life easier on the most superficial level. On the deepest level, it has been beyond fulfilling. But, you know, in terms of my financial security, or you know, looking into my future for wanting to have a family and all those things, I really wonder, how will I establish myself in the things that I love and still maintain that strong foundation for myself and for my family in the future. So I feel the sacrifice has always been being in bed with that lack of security in terms of you know, the basics of life: roof over your head, money in the bank, and guaranteed job in the future. And you could say it takes a toll on the body, but yeah, like I said, I think it really doesn't feel like a sacrifice in the sense that I feel like I'm always afforded the chance to get to know myself better, to better myself.
I think dancers are very critical of themselves, but it's also a sort of self-assessing criticism. It's sort of, you know, these are my strengths and I know them really well, and these are my weaknesses and I know those very well and I'm very aware of them, and I know how to underplay my weaknesses or sort of distract people with my strengths. Obviously, I'm very tall and I have very long legs, so sometimes, you know, when people are asking for a certain type of thing that I know I'm not very good at, I really make sure to show them, oh, look at how long I am.
There's this famous Martha Graham quote where she talks about how for the artist there is no satisfaction ever of any kind, just the satisfaction in knowing that we are more alive than the rest. Terrible paraphrasing, but I think it's true. It's like your job as an artist is never done. You're never exactly satisfied. Otherwise, you wouldn't be interested. What's interesting is the chase, is like the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of self-reflection, the pursuit of exploration. it wouldn't be interesting if we got to our destination so quickly. But that mild frustration or that mild, like, never-ending curiosity, I think it is what makes us feel alive, and it is why I keep wanting to do this work. And that passion is probably why other people are drawn to it, be as our students or as our audiences. So, you know, don't give up on the things that you're passionate about, because that is the thing that makes you happy.
There's an old joke that the only people who get paid less than dancers is poets. And I feel like it's kind of true. You know, poetry is an almost dying art form because the only people who care about it are other poets. And poets don't seem to care very much about that problem at all. So I don't think it's a weakness to care about being mainstream, about being commercial, or at least being cognizant enough of who your audience is and what they can stomach to tailor to that so somehow. And then once you have that core audience, once you have found a way in for them, you know, through the Ailey's and through the ballet, and, you know, then you can start to gently expand their horizons dance-wise. And then soon they'll be watching Pina Bausch and forming their own opinions about that. And, you know, that's a beautiful thing.
Entertainment is especially made to please the senses, to make people say wow and enjoy a spectacle. But when you want to make people think, it's a whole nother story, because you're not necessarily creating your dance to make people say, wow, look at what they can do. You're making people look at your dance and say, why did they do that? And so it creates a different dichotomy in that sense.
It's all well and good to be creating these abstract, deeply intellectual pieces of art. But, you know, if no one can stand to sit through them, then, you know, that's also a choice. But, you know, it's not necessarily a choice that furthers the art form, that furthers the community. So it is very difficult for me when people come up to me and say, oh, what do you do? And I say, I'm a professional dancer. And they're like, oh, like, so on, you think you can dance?
In this day when there's like, so you think you can dance, and we've all kind of grown up on musical theater, and it's tough to teach an audience not just to be entertained.
Read any dance magazine op-ed, you'll see people arguing about whether or not So You Think You Can Dance is, you know, the greatest cultural revelation we've ever had, or, you know, the death of us all, dance-wise.
I think when an audience comes with that expectation of wanting to be wowed and entertained, anything short of like a split arabesque chasse, you know, is maybe disappointing or maybe not what they think dance looks like.
I do believe that both are necessary and wonderful aspects in the realm of modern dance. And if a choreographer can find a way to combine the two, to have an entertainment and an artistic aspect weave together, I would say that they are approaching true mastery, because not only can they amaze people with the impossibilities of the human body, but they can make them challenge their perspective at the same time.
I think that happens in all the art forms. It's just that you're not taught dance in elementary school. You've seen the Mona Lisa since you were fucking 5, you know? You've seen Starry Night on your childhood bedroom wall because it's lovely to look at and it's not challenging. And dance also has those sort of things, but people only discover those things in their 20s and their 30s, and then they think that's it. So it makes it very difficult for all these things to cohabitate together when there just isn't education for it anyway.
The way that I've found the best to explain what modern dance is to someone that hasn't seen it is that it's a high art form of dance. And what I mean by high art is that it's about making a statement. It's not just about telling a story. It's not just about putting things together aesthetically. And it's not just about pleasing the audience or entertainment. But it's about expressing one's personal journey or thoughts or ideas to the rest of the world or to that audience that is going to be seeing it.
I feel like modern dance is this huge category that consists of so many different genres of dance and movement. And that's great in the sense that it allows such freedom. People always say that dance is sort of poetry in motion. And I think that's really bullshit for most forms of dance. I mean, it's true to a certain degree, the movements being phrased in an abstract way, as in poetry. But I feel like the point of poetry is to sort of encapsulate a feeling, to give you a feeling, to really communicate what one person's experience is to another person. Because that's what we can never do as human beings. We can never actually understand what any other human being is thinking except for us. The best part for me as a dancer is to create that vocabulary. It's the most fun. It's like the Dr. Seuss of dance, where you just get to make up nonsense words, but somehow those nonsense words really actually and perhaps more effectively communicate what it is that you'd like to say. I feel what poetry does and what modern dance does in particular is it really gives you the sights and the smells and the feeling and the touch of another person's existence. And I think that's so profound. I think that in order for the world around us, our audience, to feel more a part of modern, it really is just exposure. And an exposure in a way where they feel that they're a part of it. So I love pedestrian movement because I think it's really recognizable. Sitting, standing, walking, kneeling, lying, those are all things that everybody does anyways. And you'd be surprised how much we actually convey, whether we're sitting like this or we're sitting like this or we're sitting like this, and everyone knows what those things mean.
It's up for the interpretation of the audience. It's for them to be able to put themselves into the piece, watch it reflected back at them, and then be able to interpret it and think about it and ask themselves why they felt that way. Ask themselves where that's coming from. Why did they feel that way? Why were they feeling uncomfortable in that moment? And not just cringe away from what's different and run away from it, because then nothing ever changes.
It's a risk to put that out there. Like, are the people going to like it? But when they do, when they really do, and you can tell, it's just like nothing else.
The problem with dance is if you don't have enough exposure and you come in, you feel like you're out of the loop. You're not in on the joke or something.
We don't have nearly as much art as we should. You always want more art. I feel like other cities, New York especially, has way more dance and just art in general.
Yeah, guerrilla dance. I really like just bombarding people, not in like an aggressive way, just putting dance in unexpected places that allow people to experience dance. It's nice. I love to come upon art unexpectedly, whether it's street musicians or a beautiful mural or something, something that really kind of wakes me up out of my everyday routine is so exciting, and it makes me question what that routine was and how late am I really? Can't I just take 5 more minutes here to listen to this man play violin on the side of the street? Like, yeah, I probably can spare that because this is making me feel good. So I hope the dance can do that too. I think it does. It does for me. Yeah, give people a chance to think about their bodies in a new way, which I think is really important.
You search for that that exuberance of life in different places, whether it be music or going out to dinner, enjoying some good food, or seeing some really good dance. I think that's just a part of it.
And there's just none out there, not in person, not in the press. It's just non-existent. We don't know how to talk about dance. And it seems like we're almost afraid to. Like, that'll somehow take away from it, that dance's only quality is that it's beyond language, it's above language. But I feel that doesn't mean it needs to be exclusive of language, that we can't apply language to it, or we can't try to puzzle it out in some way. Language is just another tool for connecting across human experiences, just like dance, just like music. And I don't feel we should limit ourselves in dance.
Dance allows every person a lot of freedom, both the dancer and the viewer. And I think that that's really beautiful, that when dance doesn't impose itself on someone and really lets them understand.
When I think about modern dance and what it means, I think you can touch someone else's life and they can watch your story or the performance that you're giving a little bit of your soul. And if that touches their soul and relates to them in some way that is meaningful, that's why I do it.
It's about being honest, about being true, and about continuing to progress and explore oneself, and thus helping others be able to express and explore themselves.
There's no other feeling like it. When you're standing in the dark backstage with all your friends, all your colleagues who've worked so hard with all around you, whispering, not even whispering because there's no music yet, there's just the audience quieting down, the hush. That's when it really hits you that this is what you're meant to do.